Pasquarelli down to the wire. Good morning. On this weekend last year, after we watched the fastest mass finish in Foot Locker history on the girls' side, and then we watched Josh Mether and Carter Solomon go on to 1-2 on the boys' race and head off to Notre Dame, this is where we thought we would be this morning. You're looking out over the Pacific Ocean from what would be our rooms at the beautiful Hotel del Coronado in San Diego. We thought we'd be getting ready to board the buses and head over to iconic Morley Field to see what would be the Foot Locker National Championship. But this is 2020, and it has been anything but normal. So instead of watching the 40 best boys and 40 best girls line up to test themselves against the nation's best, we can still enjoy the excitement of the nation's longest running high school national championship by spending a little time this morning talking with not only some of the greatest American distance runners who have raced at Foot Locker and then gone on to Olympic glory, but we'll also be talking with some of the high school runners who are currently tearing it up and will be right here next year to take their shot at becoming the 2021 Foot Locker National Champion. And that will include Jenna Hutchins. And in case you got up a little late this morning and haven't looked online yet, Jenna ran 15:34:47 last night in South Carolina to set not only a new national high school record, breaking the record, the actual 5K record of Mary Kane and the actual overall indoor record of Caitlin Toohey, but she also broke the American junior record. That's for girls under 20. She already broke that, and that record was held by Foot Locker alum Molly Huddle. So Jenna will be joining us a little bit later. So I'd like to welcome you again. I'm Tim O'Rourke on behalf of all the folks at Foot Locker and East Bay and all the volunteers that helped put on the Foot Locker Championship Series. We're just delighted that you've joined us once again today for our third webinar celebrating the Foot Locker National Cross Country Championships. You know, in the previous 2 weeks, we've had a great time talking with Jenny Simpson and Matt Keflezgy and Dina Castor, Emma Coburn, Molly Huddle, Caitlin Hart, Kara Goucher, Emily Sisson, Molly Seidel, Wayne Kalati, and so many others, elite runners, about the Olympic Games, National Championships, what it's like to be training in these chaotic times, and also just enjoying their reflections on the Foot Locker National Cross Country Championships. So today, we're not only going to be talking with another prestigious group of great American distance runners, but we're also going to be counting down the most legendary boys races in Foot Locker history. Last week we did the girls, this week we'll do the boys. And that'll include our #1 race, which many folks consider to be the most important boys high school cross country race ever run. And we'll also be talking with some of the current outstanding high school female runners in the country who'll be right here in San Diego next year, trying to become the 42nd Foot Locker National Champion. And just as we did last week, we'll also be having a discussion anytime you can join in with us. You can ask questions. You can just share your favorite Foot Locker memory with us. So we're using the Zoom webinar format again today. And you'll notice at the bottom of your screen, there's an option for Q&A. And at any time, you can click on that Q&A button and type in a question, or simply type in your favorite Foot Locker memory. And just like we did last week and the week before, if we use your question or talk about your memory on the show today, we'll send you a $25 East Bay gift card. And by the way, we'd like to thank and congratulate the folks who won gift cards last week: Nikki Gamboa, Emily Urbina, Gabrielle Harrell, Alex Pasternak, Cooper Austin, Josiah Magley, Laura Bear. Thank you so much and congratulations. And hopefully this week we can send out some more. So at any time, just click on that Q&A and send in your question. And now I'd like to introduce an outstanding American Olympian and Foot Locker alum. She's our co-host not only for today, but for our national championship broadcast every year. She was a member of the 2004 U.S. Olympic team, a 3-time USA national champion at 1500, 5-time NCAA champion while at Villanova, 13-time Minnesota State champion in high school, and a 3-time Foot Locker national finalist herself. You may also have seen her on many of the ESPN television broadcasts of the New York City Marathon and NBC for other track and road racing events. It's my pleasure to welcome Carrie Tollefson. Welcome, Carrie.
Thanks, Tim. What an honor it is to be here again. I mean, what a thrill to have a webinar every weekend with all of these legends and just to hear their joy and their love of Foot Locker along with my own. It's a pleasure. And I'm so excited to hear from the old guys today, the middle of the Packers and, you know, the middle-aged people, and then also the new young ladies. So it's just a really exciting day ahead of us.
It should be a lot of fun. We'd like to start with a little fun here. So we're going to introduce all the Olympians that are with us and NCAA champions who have joined us today in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at some of the greatest finishes in Foot Locker history. We can. 2018, just a couple years ago, Caitlin Hart, Sydney Massarelli coming down the stretch. Caitlin led this race from start. Massarelli came up hard. Caitlin fought her off.
Massarelli and Hart. Hart now over the top of the hill. 100 meters to go. And here comes Massarelli back. And Hart coming back. Hart and Massarelli down to the wire. And Massarelli would be the Foot Locker national champion.
What a great race. Then to the 2000 boys race. Edward Cheserek, he'll be joining us in just a couple of minutes. He and Pitson Dennis Selassie. What a great race. They exchanged the lead 6 times together all the way through 3 miles. And then Edward finds that final gear to go over the top of the hill.
Next to each other. Bad, with just really that capital spirit of what this event is all about.
And here we go, 2009. Looked like Chelsea Sevens is on her way to a national championship. Comes over that little hill, still got 20-meter lead. Oh, hey, outstanding. Oh, my.
For the top 3, or the first, second, and third team All-American. Here comes Matt Simon. Looks like he had a pretty tough day out there.
All-American.
Look at the dive. That's Zachary Torres out of the West. Diving for that 15th place. We'll see if he got it or not.
Dylan Sorenson and Zack Torres both wanting that 15th spot. And Zack, baseball player, does that head first slide. Dylan right there, and they tied for the 15th spot. Do you two guys remember that race?
Absolutely.
Of course we do.
Think about it all the time.
Before they go too far, if you don't know it, these are the two right here. Dylan Sorensen there with the black and white shirt, and Zack wearing his Santa Claus hat there. Guys, it was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The whole race was absolutely fantastic memories. I think about it all the time. Look at that. Look at that guy.
You know, that's somebody, I was talking to Zack on the phone the other day. We've kept in touch really because of that interaction over the last, gosh, what's it been, Zack, 12 years now? I feel old. But Zack was telling me he brings in job interviews a picture of him diving at the line, and he shows the person interviewing him, and he's like, "This is the person you want working for you." And I was like, yeah, that's awesome. But no, what a tremendous experience. And he was catching me. It wasn't the other way around. What heart he showed, and everybody can learn something from that.
Well, it's hard to miss him. You know, he's like a brachiosaurus. Look how tall he is. Look at that. Look at that.
First of all, I want to know, Zack, was that in the race plan when you had, you know, just a few feet left? Was it like, I'm going to get Dylan right now?
Going into that race, I remember specifically that we wanted to get top 15. That's the All-American that was coveted. And, you know, I was one of the last guys to get invited to that race. I think I was 9th in my region. So by no means was I expected to be in that mix. But at the same time, that was the goal going in. And I got a good, I remember I was going back and rereading some of my interviews. And I remember I went out to the Coronado Beach, and I was just staring at the ocean for a good hour, just kind of getting in the mental zone, and kind of came to an understanding with myself that we were not going away feeling like we left anything in the tank. So I remember coming up and, you know, seeing that big red hair and wanting, you know, knowing that represented everything I wanted. So the beautiful thing is Foot Locker decided it was down to a tie. So Dylan and I got to share that trophy. And I'm honored, honestly. Dylan's an incredible athlete. The people that you have on this panel today are incredible athletes. I'm just honored to be a part of the discussion. Well, look at that guy. Look at that dive. Oh, I'm telling you, that's hilarious.
Hey, Dylan, you're a coach now. Wouldn't you want to recruit Zack, huh?
I sure would. Well, I mean, to be honest, I would want to recruit anybody who's at the Foot Locker Cross Country Championships fighting for an All-American spot. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so funny thinking back on that moment. And I knew Zack was coming. You can tell when you're in a race and you're coming down the finishing stretch, and there's a difference in the sense you get from the crowd that's lining the finish line. And I knew somebody was coming, and I tried everything I could to hold him off. But no, it was such a great day. And I'm certainly proud and honored to be part of the only year where you all awarded 16 All-American spots, not 15, because I was sweating the rest of that day.
Yeah, he had an unfair advantage. Zack's dad's a baseball coach. Zack, did Dad critique that slide, huh?
You know what? I guess both my mother and my father are both tough cookies. So I think they just, I knew that car ride was going to be a rough car ride back to Los Angeles if I knew I missed it by 0.00001 seconds. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think it fires me up to watch, because you'd like to think that you want to live your life like that every day. And, you know, I was just fired up. You know, if you go after that and you have that, you can tell in that photo, my eyes are literally on the finish line. I think I think either my coach or my uncle that pointed out that that was all I was thinking about, was getting every part of my body up over. If I could if I had a mustache, I'd be trying to get the mustache over the line. I wanted every bit of me trying to get up there with Dylan.
Outstanding. Well, you're rocking the stash now. Looks good there.
Got to do it, baby.
Hey, real quick here, before we leave you two, what are you two up to now? Dylan, you first. What are you up to now?
Yeah, so I coach at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and we've been having a blast here. I coach cross country and track and field, and a big part of that is because of my experience at Foot Locker. That was one of the first places I think I started believing in myself and really having confidence. And just like Zack, I was not a highly touted runner when I got to that meet. They didn't even introduce my times because Jordan Hasse had a faster 2-mile time than I did on the track. But I gained confidence from that. And that led to me becoming an All-American in the outdoor track season, and then in college a few times. And then I competed professionally in triathlon for a few years after that. And though that snowballs. And Foot Locker is what I dreamed about when I was in class and should have been paying attention every day in high school. It was what I dreamed about when I went to sleep, and it's what I trained for every day. And I think Zack made a tremendous point when he talked about neither one of us were maybe meant to be in the mix, but a lot of people's goals are just to get there, or you have a goal to achieve something in your life. But what happens when you actually do get there? It's that you make the most of it. That's the most important thing. And particularly in Balboa Park, that course is tough. And when it gets really hard, the people that aren't just happy to be there really are gritty and they want to fight for it. And I am forever thankful for that.
Outstanding. Zack, what are you up to?
I am in Los Angeles doing commercial real estate. So again, I like a good fight no matter what. And I am enjoying that world of business. And, you know, I think Foot Locker set the stage for my entire career, entire life, everything. I mean, I was a cocky little son of a gun in high school, but oh yeah, still are. But that race really gave me the confidence. And also, that was the first time that I found people similar to me, people of the similar mindset that woke up every day with the same goal, the same everything, and all of our time, energy, and I guess mindset was going towards one goal, which was to be the best at our craft, which was at that time running. And I think that was the first time I ever felt that type of camaraderie with anyone. I thought of myself as someone that just couldn't find a way to fit in. As social as I was, it felt like I couldn't get a group of friends. And then I got there and I was around people of the same mindset, so open that all were feeling the same exact way. So please keep going with Foot Locker, because it was the first time, really, I'm telling you, I was reading my interviews. And I started to tear up because I was thinking about how much that camaraderie meant to me and how important that was shaping the rest of my career. So thanks again, guys. It's something to remember, and I owe you guys everything.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Dylan, you guys are tearing it up recruiting wise. Keep that up. And Zack, we'll be watching the E channel for Zack Millionaire Real Estate reality show here sometime
What do you mean? I'm going to start running for Dylan. I'm always ready to spike up. Any day.
You might not recover from those falls as much, though. The older you get, the falls hurt worse.
Hey, heads up! If you're gonna dive in cross country, it hurts. It really hurts. So you really gotta want it.
It was worth it.
Thank you so much, guys. We really appreciate you coming on this morning, and it's a fond memory for all of us also. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
Oh my! All right, what a great way to start here. I told you we'd have a little fun this morning here with what goes on, and we've got a heck of a group of young men we'd like to introduce to you. We're going to introduce the men here, and then we'll bring on the girls a little bit later as we talk about the 2021 race. But we've got quite a group of folks that we'd like to introduce to you now here. We're going to talk with all of them in depth as we go through for the next 45 minutes or so, and then we're going to get down to the legendary races. But we'd like to introduce them to you first. If you're into the sport, this is almost like Olympian bingo right here, right now. If you can name all those guys in there, then that's pretty impressive, and you know the sport. So each one, we're going to introduce each one of them here, and we just like to ask them as I introduce them. We're going to talk about races and all that stuff, and have some interesting conversations about training. Most of you guys are coaching now, or at least advising people, so are still racing. What you're doing during these tough times here in 2020. But maybe just for a minute after I introduce you, give me just a little quick, I don't think a lot of people realize that it's not just that race you see online for those 15 or 20 minutes on that Saturday morning. It's 3 pretty cool days, maybe just about the coolest hotel in the country. So maybe you can share with us after we introduce you one quick memory of Foot Locker that's not related to the actual race on Saturday morning. So if I may, let me start here. I'm going to start with Bob Kennedy there. Bob was, of course, in 1986, made his first appearance at Foot Locker and got 3rd. And then in 1987, he came back and he won the Foot Locker, running 14:59, and then did something very unusual. The following year, went right on to Indiana and won the NCAA championship. He was an NCAA champ indoor and outdoor track. 2-time Olympian, 6th in the Olympic Games in 1996 at 5,000, and then set American records at both 3,000 and at 2 miles and at 5,000. He ran 12:58.21 to break the American record there. So I'd like to welcome Bob Kennedy. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks. Great to be here. It's a great group of athletes and, frankly, friends of mine. So it's great to be here with everybody else. Foot Locker was a beginning for lots of us, for me. You mentioned it, you just mentioned it, the experience was something I had never seen before. The Hotel Del in San Diego on Coronado is amazing. And you kind of walk in as a junior in high school. Wow, it was insane. And So I left there. One of the speakers my junior year was Mary Decker Slaney, and she said, I'll never forget this. She said, you will never be treated as well as you're being treated this weekend, even if you're a professional athlete. And that ended up being pretty true. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. No doubt about it. Well, we said Bob went right from being the Foot Locker national champion to be the NCAA champion the following year. Our next guest did the same thing. Edward Cheserek came as a junior to Foot Locker and won it as a junior in what really is one of the epic races. It's that one we showed where Fitzsimmons and Edward battled back and forth. They ran 14:52 and 14:53. Edward came back his senior year and won it again. Then he went on to Oregon and was the NCAA cross country champion and the first of 17 NCAA championships while at Oregon. And then just last weekend, right back out here in Southern California, ran 27:23 for 10K on the track. Welcome, Edward. We're going to get Edward's mic unmuted there. I think we got it. There we go. Edward, welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Edward, you're 27:23 last week. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was a great rate actually. Yeah, I kind of wanted to run a little bit faster, but I've been waiting. I've been doing this short distance, but last weekend I get opportunity to get a good feel and run fast 10,000. But I'm looking forward to run more faster and faster throughout that, maybe next year.
Oh, congratulations. That was excellent. Let's move on to Todd Williams there, way back in 1986, second, but ran 14:49. Now that's the sixth fastest time ever on that San Diego course. He went on to become an All-American at Tennessee, was our national champion cross country a couple times, set American record for 15K on the roads, 60 minutes, 11 seconds for the half marathon. Of course, a U.S. Olympian. Welcome, Todd.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think Bob hit it right on the head. I think, out of all the events that I was, fortunate to train really hard and be able to, make a couple Olympic teams, make the world championship teams. I think my memories of going out to Foot Locker and just the experience, like Bob said, going up into the hotel and my best experience at that point was probably a Holiday Inn on the side of a highway driving down to spring break with my dad. So when I got to go out there and experience everything and I think now looking back 33 years, it's all the lifelong friends that I made during that one weekend. It's awesome. You can pick up the phone and make some calls and laugh a lot. And, I think Marc Davis and I, at the time it was, he was a super rival of mine, right? I wanted to beat Marc Davis, but, the lifelong friendship that we obtained after that weekend, I'll never be able to replace that with anything. So the memories I have of Foot Locker is top of the list.
Awesome. Well, let's move over to Marc. Marc had the shortest distance to travel for anybody going to Foot Locker. His high school just about a couple blocks away. So he made it there in 1985 and got 8th in 1986, won the national championship and ran 14:38. Now that's the second fastest ever, just 2 seconds off Ruben Reyna's course record. Went on to the University of Arizona, was an NCAA champion there, won our national championship in the steeple at 5,000. And was a 1996 Olympian. Welcome, Marc. Oh, we have to unmute you. So as we go through this, if you just hold down your space bar, I'll unmute you also. So Marc,
all right, there we go. Hey, thanks for having me. I think this has just been a pretty, let's see, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. You're all
okay.
Go ahead.
So, hey, thanks for having me. And I think, the experience of Foot Locker was amazing. I think for Todd and Bob and I and some of the older athletes, it was a unique experience because back then we didn't really know a lot about the other athletes that were coming. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have, all the plethora of information that was coming at us all the time. So I think it was really kind of fascinating to meet these people for the first time and really get to know them. And like Todd said, I mean, lifelong friendships. I talk to Todd often. I chat with Bob every once in a while. I chat up with Steve as well. So I just think it's an amazing experience that you end up carrying for the rest of your career. And that's really the best thing about it. You have teammates in high school, you have teammates in college, but really I actually speak to more people that I hung out with at Foot Locker than anybody.
Oh, thanks so much to have you with us. So we really appreciate it. Let's go on to Steve. Steve Slattery made it to Foot Locker in 1996, finished 9th, went on to the University of Colorado, was a runner-up in the NCAA championships in the steeplechase, made it to the World Championships twice there. Steve, we've been having a lot of these Colorado folks on. They've been really pushing this stuff, that connection. I'm sure Dathan will get on it too, but hey, welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me. It's great to see everybody.
It's nice to have you with us here. And speaking of Colorado, another one coming up here, Dathan Ritzenhein is with us. Now, he made it to Foot Locker 3 times, which is pretty rare for a boy to make it as a sophomore, but he got 8. And then he came back in 1999 and not only won it, but that's when we were in Florida and he ran 14:29. And if you're into speed ratings, that's considered by folks to be the fastest high school race ever. And that was one of the great Foot Locker races. That was one heck of a field. And then came back in 2000. And we'll talk about that 2000 race in a little while because a lot of people consider it really a benchmark of American distance running and all, and what was about to happen. But he ran 14:35, was a junior bronze medalist in the World Cross Country Championships that year, and then went on to break, I think it was Bob's record at 5,000, wasn't it? Running 12:56.27. So Dathan, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's good to see everybody here. Good to see Bob there. He sent me a good message after breaking the American record. So that's always great to have guys like Bob and Todd. Those are guys that I looked up to. And then as me and Alan and Ryan came through Foot Locker, it just kept going, and we have Edward here as well. So it's pretty awesome to see people from across different generations, and those people inspired me, and I hope that we were able to inspire those like Edward, and Edward was able to inspire the next generation who are watching this show, and hopefully next year when it comes back again, we just keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's been a theme of all this inspiring others. I think Jenny Simpson shared with us last week. She was at that race as a volunteer, just working, helping out, and was impressed and really got into it there. So speaking of setting American records out of that same group there, we'll go on to Ryan Hall there. Ryan was third in Foot Locker in 2000, 14:59. Went on to be an NCAA champion at Stanford. The American record holder at the half marathon, 59:43. Oh my. And 2:04:58 for the full marathon. He's an Olympian also. Ryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm stoked to be on with you guys. And like these guys are saying, for me, like the highlight of Foot Locker was just the people I met, not only on the guy side, but also on the girl side. I met my wife, Sarah, at the Foot Locker West regions, and we hung out more when we were in Orlando. So, the quality of people at Foot Locker to me is like what it's all about and what really makes the event what it is. I mean, yeah, like the hotels are nice. It's nice to get flown somewhere. But the quality of people you meet there, the lifelong relationships you build there is what I'll take with me all the way to my grave.
Thank you so much here. And let's finish off here. We just keep with this American record theme here. So Alan Webb in 1999 finished 8th at 15:05 and then came back and got second in that great 2000 race at 14:55. And then ran a pretty fast mile in high school, 3:53:43. He also 1:47:74 at 800. Was our USA champion at 1500. And of course, the American mile record holder at 3:46:91 and an Olympian. Alan, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Obviously, just echoing what everybody's already said about just the experience that you have at Foot Locker is unparalleled. We were in Florida, Dathan, Ryan, and myself, and I still just remember walking on that little pier, one of the nights before where we had, they had our dinner set up and just soaking up just that awesome experience. And then I also I remember Dathan, you carrying around a box of cereal and just munching on some cereal straight out of the box. So I was like, okay, is this what you got to do to keep the carbs coming in, I guess. But yeah, just the memories of just making friends and that continue on through the rest of your career and then through your whole life. So it was awesome.
Oh no, the secret's out, Dathan. There we go. Now they'll know. It isn't
I was
all
trying
miles, huh?
I was trying to get into his head right then,
It worked, man.
It works. Very good. So we're going to open up to all of you here. It's amazing. This is, we were ready for it, but even just talking to you now, the list and the accomplishments you folks have done since then is just incredible. We mentioned a little earlier that Foot Locker has an impact on all these things. I'm going to turn it over to Carrie for a little while. Carrie, it's a lot of fun for you Olympians to get together here.
It is, and regardless if we're Olympians or not, we are part of the Foot Locker family. And I think what's been interesting as we've been getting ready for this interview in particular, we have a lot of coaches that are here. So you guys have gone from, competing and then now moving into the coaching world. And maybe some of you aren't necessarily running coaches, but you are still advising. Steve, I know you're not coaching anymore, you're in sales, but your wife is coaching who you met at Foot Locker, Sarah. And Edward, you're not there yet. You're still competing, but you're still always available. And I think that's been really cool. So if I can just open it up here and have you guys kind of talk about how you're helping these younger kids through this, but also how you're helping the running community in general. Maybe Marc, let's start with you.
Well, yeah, I think that, once somebody finds out that, you're wherever you're living and wherever you're moving and you end up, your kids are hanging out with other kids.
Marc Davis,
and, the parents find out that, what you did as an athlete. Obviously the questions come in, how do you motivate your kid? How do you get them to the top? How do you make sure that they get into college and they have a great career out of it? And so, a lot of it is just talking about what worked for you. A lot of times it's talking about what didn't work for you. I think with me, as many mistakes as I made in the past, I probably am able to give a lot more advice about what not to do than what to do. But a lot of times I refer to people like Alan and Dathan and Bob and Todd and talk about the things that worked for them, that really did well, the dedication that I saw in runners like Bob and Todd, and tell people like, look to these type of people, look to that type of dedication and that type of commitment. And that's what's really going to take you far. It's not necessarily just about talent or about the specific workouts, just that dedication and that motivation. And certainly just looking at those athletes and the athletes that are here, it's easy to get motivated from them.
Yeah. Dathan, Ryan, Alan, any of you guys who's coaching now the younger generation?
I think it's super exciting. Like, I'm not exactly a coach right now, but I have Sarah that keeps me super tied to the sport. And right now Ryan's daughter is on the team. So I get to see Ryan a lot more from back in the day, but we're super excited that Sarah gets to coach his daughter, and we're super excited to see how well she does in college. So
Alan,
I just
how about
think
you?
it's really, I think it's such a rewarding thing to be able to take all the lessons that we learned and pass that on, so that the next generation get to basically earn the experience, for example, of going to Foot Locker. Because that experience that we've all described and of that positive experience was earned with the work that you did, and to be able to tell somebody that, hey, if you do all this work, you're going to get something from it, not just the result of the race, but the experience of the race as well. So it's a really good feeling to be able to pass that on. Oh, it was cold that day. Gosh.
Yeah, and I think what Marc was saying about all the stumbling blocks along the way, we're sitting here with this panel of people, but the reality is what Alan was saying, you have to earn that, right? But along the way, there's so many hurdles, there's so many stumbling blocks, and so really we probably screwed up so many more times than we were successful. And definitely for me, that was the case. I mean, I had a long career, 16 years, but the Olympic teams and the American records were sandwiched between periods of time where, the injuries, you're sitting in the gym, just riding the bike, you're in the pool, and or you're disappointed with the races because it's not like you don't go like this. I mean, if you want to have success, it's climbing a mountain to get there. And there's no highway to the top, it's usually a long, rugged road. And so along the way, if you can impart that on someone who's really talented, which, that's something that I'm fortunate to do right now, but even just someone who's maybe just getting into the sport, they often don't know the little nuances, and so to be able to pass those things along, it's special because now we're, if we're not as good as we used to be, then at least you can kind of live vicariously through other people's learning to love the sport.
Welcome to coaching. Hey, maybe we can take advantage of this because we got a lot of kids that are watching and logging into Foot Locker CC over the next couple of weeks to watch this again. This has been a really tough time. For those of us on the West Coast, we're not even racing yet. We haven't even had cross country season yet. And yet some people have had national championship races and state championships. So I know that a lot of you, Edward, you're still racing right now. And the rest of you, if you're advising people, it's tough. The goals keep changing. Edward, you ran very fast. We just mentioned that 27-23 just a couple weeks ago. But how are you managing to motivate yourself when there's so few racing opportunities? How do you keep motivated day after day? And what do you suggest for a young kid to do during these times?
I mean, man, for now, it's really tough to stay motivated. For me, myself, I try to do everything I can to just, get out of the door every day and just go out there and do what I love to do every day. But I'll say that for younger kids that are looking, forward to keep racing and stay motivated for now during this hardest time, it's just like, whatever you can do in the morning or anytime you can get out and try to be safe and just to, even 20 minutes run or whatever you can do to aid that you get some exercises. But at the moment, it's hard for everybody to get out there just to because of what's happening now.
It really is. Ryan, you're coaching your daughters. Now, we had a state championship in Arizona, right?
Yeah, they had a championship a couple weeks back, and we were thankful to get some opportunities. And as we look at kind of COVID, I see it as like you can look at it two ways, like the struggle that you're facing, or what's the opportunity within that struggle. And I know, like for my girls and for Sarah in particular, like Ed was saying, like the motivation has been tough because races aren't happening as much, but looking for, hey, what is actually the opportunity in this season that we're in? Maybe I get to build a way bigger base than I've ever built before. Maybe I get to do some weight training that I otherwise couldn't do if I had a bunch of races on tap. So I think there's been an amazing opportunity for athletes to take advantage of here. And it's been cool to see like world records going down and some really fast, impressive running. I mean, Jenna just ripped a 5K, like athletes are taking advantage of this COVID season. So yes, I can see it as like a massive challenge, but I also see just a massive opportunity coming out of this. And I think we're going to see the fruits of this season. We're going to see athletes thriving and running some amazing stuff as a result of having gone through this struggle.
I think just to pile on what Ryan said, I think that's a great point to make. And I mean, I think we all see young kids sometimes racing way too much. I mean, they have very long seasons. They get into road races a lot. They're doing cross country, especially distance runners, cross country, indoor, outdoor. They're doing all the major invitationals. They're racing during the summers as well. I think this is a great opportunity. You see a lot of these fast times happening right now because athletes are almost being forced to just keep training really well rather than constantly trying to peak for races and constantly, going in those highs in their training and always running that risk of getting hurt and having more setbacks more than anything. So I agree with Ryan. I think this is a great opportunity for these kids to really get like solid, long lasting type base training in that'll take them into college, hopefully.
Very good. Let me pose some of the questions. We've got several that have posted online. And speaking of working hard, the Western Day has a question for Dathan. Dathan, is it true you did 32 times 400 as a workout in high school?
That is true, actually. I don't know if I would advise that necessarily, but we started the season. This was in the summer, actually. And so in the summer, we started at 16. And every week for some reason we just went up 4. So by the end, we went up to 32. And I do remember running like 7 miles in the morning. And then we would do the workout, and we had like a huge group, like a training club actually of, people 5 years old up to like 80. And so everybody was doing something, some kind of, some amount of 400s. And I just kept going, and a few other people. And before you knew it, it was up to 32. And I think I got 22 miles on the day.
Hey, so what do you remember some of those workouts from high school? How many miles were we doing? Bob, what about you? You had some pretty big success in high school.
I think I would have quit if I had to do 32 400s in high school. Been over before it started. I was a very low mileage high school runner. Cross country season was 35, 40 miles a week. Pretty good intensity. Had great high school coaches who, one of the things I appreciate about my high school coaches, for all you coaches out there who are listening, is they looked at me and they thought, I don't know, I've never coached someone at this level. And they went out and sought help. They didn't just assume they knew everything, and they talked to college coaches that they knew or other resources. And they put me first as an athlete. And I think that was kind of a beginning to my success, is having partners and coaches that were in it for my success and not their career. And that was awesome. But yeah, so low mileage and went from there. I'm not coaching now, but I do have a daughter who's a sophomore in high school who's pretty talented. And it's been really fascinating kind of watching it through her eyes and trying to keep my eyes out of her brain, if that makes any sense. Because she is going through, I think, a lot of things that have been talked about today, which is she really had her sights set on Foot Locker and some of the other national meets. And so she had some weeks in there that maybe she wasn't quite as focused because that wasn't a goal anymore for this year. And for a 15-year-old, it was harder for her to keep focused on the short term. And I'm a big believer, and I preach to her all season, is focus on what you can control. Break it down into small manageable pieces. So this week, next week, the one thing that is in front of you that's real, and go from there. And so I commend all you coaches that are working with athletes through this time. I can't imagine it's easy. You've had to really think and pivot and manage. And from the results I'm seeing, I think you're doing a great job.
Well, that's an understatement. Hey, let's go around real quick, and we'll wrap this up because we want to get to the races and we want to bring on the girls that we have scheduled to come on. So you all have had just unbelievable. I mean, we went through American record, Olympia. So you judged what you did in high school for workouts. You went to college and you had college coaches, and then afterwards your professional career. If you could go back to young 16-year-old Dathan or 14-year-old Todd when you're a high school kid, what's the one thing you would say that you wish you had either done, or one thing you did that really worked well for you in high school in your training? So what's the one thing you would either change, or the one thing, boy, I'm sure glad I did this? And let's start with Todd. So Todd, going back to your high school stuff there, what really worked well, or what would you have changed?
I think the number one thing, I was really fortunate to have a great coach, and I listened to him. And I made sure that my dad told me to listen to him. And if I didn't, there was going to be consequences for that. So Dave Bork was a heck of a coach. He ran with a couple of Olympians at Miami of Ohio. So Jack Batchelor was one of the guys he ran with in college. And so he took that type of mindset, that type of work ethic. And when I first joined the cross country team and as a sophomore, he's like, he would always hand us a training log at the beginning of each season or in the summer. And he would say, put your goals in there and how are you going to get there? And, my sophomore year, I said, well, I want to be an all-stater. And he's like, well, you're going to have to run 500 miles over the summer. I ran 500 miles. I didn't hit the goal that I wanted. I missed it by one place, but I got pretty far. The next summer, the same thing. What do you want to accomplish? I want to be state champ. Well, you better run 750 miles over the summer. I listened to what he said, and then I ended up winning the state championship. And then my senior year in high school, to get ready for Foot Locker, he asked me my goal going into my senior year. What do you want to accomplish? I said, I want to be the national champion. I want to be the #1 runner in high school and win Foot Locker. And he scratched his head. He goes, you know what? He goes, you're a hard worker. He goes, I want you to run 1,000 miles over the summer, which ended up being about 85 miles a week. But I just had a great coach and a great structure. And I had a great dad and mom that guided me. And I just listened, man. There's a lot of people that question, and some kids are in a bad spot maybe in their high school program, but I was just really fortunate to have a good program and good family and friends that supported me.
That's great. Ryan, what about you?
I'd say this, and you have to work extremely hard. I mean, I get parents that'll call me and say, well, what does it take? And, and I'm like, you got to work and you got to go through some tough times, and you're going to have some bad races and bad workouts, but you got to keep grinding. You got to grind.
Ryan, what about you? You were coached by your dad a lot. Now you're coaching as a dad. Anything you would have changed, or what worked really well?
You know what? As I look back at the Foot Locker race, one of the things that I'm proud about how I ran, but I'm actually not proud of my attitude. So, like, I finished 3rd place, and I was all miffed afterwards. Like, I didn't celebrate it all. I didn't go to, like, the dance you guys had afterwards, and I was just in, like, a really bad mood, right? And as I look back at that, I'm like, man, I missed it. Like, I should be able to be finishing 3rd in the country. I should be able to celebrate that, right? And as I look at that, I'm like, my mindset was wrong in terms of defining what is success, what is victory, what is accomplishing my goal look like. And it was all about comparison. It was about me trying to beat Dathan and Allen and trying to win a national title. And that caused me to not be able to celebrate the wonderful thing that did happen, which was finishing 3rd. And, as I look back on my career, I'm like, man, I learned an important lesson at Foot Locker, and that's it. The way for running to be most fulfilling, no matter what results you have, no matter how far you get in the sport, whether you get to the Olympics, set American records, I don't care what you accomplish, the way to have a fulfilling career as a runner is to make it about going after personal excellence and not about comparison. And so if I go back and talk to myself, I'd slap myself in the face after the race and be like, hey, you got 100% out of your body on the day. And that's where it's at. And the cool thing about that is everyone can be successful in that situation. Like, I can finish 3rd, and if I got everything out of my body, it was a success, even if Dathan and Allen were in front of me. And, as I look back, I learned that lesson over the course of my career over years and years. And fast forward to the Boston Marathon in 2011, even though I ran faster than any person had ever run that race in over 120 years, I finished 4th that day. But man, I felt like I won. Because to me, like, I finally arrived at that spot where running is not about how good are you compared to someone else. It's about finding what's inside of you and nurturing that talent and ability and getting it out of your body and seeing how it's about personal excellence, seeing how good at this sport you can get.
I'll jump in on that, Ryan. That's amazing. I love hearing you talk about that. I'm 50 years old now, and I heard Billy Mills speak at Foot Locker. The great Billy Mills, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, it's not about the medals, not about the records, it's about the journey. And at 50 years old, and I know a lot of guys on this panel feel the same way, it is about the journey. I'll tell you a story I haven't told a lot of people. When I set the American record in the 5,000 in Stockholm in 1996, set the American record, you're happy, you're excited. You kind of go through all the media stuff. You find your way back to the hotel. And I went into the hotel room. I was by myself. I dropped my spike bag on the floor and I sat on the edge of the bed and I wept. And I wept because of the journey, because there were so many hard days. There were so many days and workouts that you thought it was over, that you didn't know if you were ever going to be at the level you wanted to be at. And to kind of make it through and to stay the course and to keep on the journey and to have success, whether it's an American record or just something that you weren't sure you could ever do, but you did it, that is what's worth it. That's what you're starting now. It's all the high school kids watching this. You're starting that journey now. And if you can focus on that, it'll be worth it when you're 50.
Wow. That's outstanding. That's one of the questions. We're going to send you, it was Justin Martinez, you asked a question. We're going to send you a gift card because your question was, what's your criteria for success? And those were 2 great answers. They're outstanding. Just like to end it up here, and we're going to go and talk real quick about the races, legendary races, because we are already 50 minutes in. So we're going to keep you on if you guys can just stay with us for a few minutes and you're going to see yourself in a couple of these races. One question, I'm sure it's not meant to be rude, but somebody said a question is, all you 1980s competitors, was Foot Locker the first time you ever saw yourself on video? There was no internet or mobile phone. So I'll let that one just slide there. But, you know, those are some interesting haircuts there, Marc Davis. You know, I'm a little jealous myself of anybody who has hair, so it's okay. Anyway, so we'd like to thank you guys for that. Let's quickly go through, you know, we had a panel get together and talk about what were the most important. There were great races, but what were the most important races? And we're going to go through, we chose 6 of them, and many of you show up in those. So Carrie, why don't you take the first one, number 6 there?
Yes, well, he ran in 2002 and he won by the largest margin of victory ever. It was 21 seconds. This is Chris Zielinski. He ran 4:03.80 in high school. He ran 8:43 in high school. He went on to have a wonderful career at the University of Madison, Wisconsin. And then he went on to have a great professional career where he set an American record in the 10,000 meters, but then had some injuries. He was on our first webinar. What an outstanding runner, great guy. And this was our first on our list of the top 6 legendary races.
Probably using 2001 completely to his Foot Locker championships. He's our winner. And his time is 14:40 unofficially. What a great run. Now it's how much is he winning?
Chris Zielinski, awesome guy.
Yeah, he was. He's coaching now too. So number 5 here on our list, which was really one of the most enjoyable races to watch. We go back to 2011. It was Edward Cheserek's first year at Foot Locker. He was in after the and he had him and Vincent Dennis Selassie. What a battle this was. Mano a mano. That final stretch here, Edward had a great finish. And this is one of the fastest races ever. This is 14:53 for Edward, 14:50, or excuse me, 52 for Edward, 53 for Fitsum. But I think what I remember most of this race is the friendship the two of you developed after this, or maybe during that actual race here. And it's the first time, the memory I have when people ask me about Foot Locker and what I remember most, the thing I remember most, Edward, is the banquet. We always let the champions have the last word. We bring up the boys champion, the girls champion. And Edward, you brought up Fitsum that night. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember those days, man. That was fun, though. You know, after this moment, you know, we live in Flagstaff, me and Fitsum, and our friendship is still strong after this moment. And back during those times, I remember that bringing Fitsum.
That was so nice. And I knew you guys raced in college and all that. So it's a relationship you still have today then. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we still have a very strong relationship now. We live in Flagstaff. Sometimes we do some runs together, and you know, sometimes we meet for coffee.
Outstanding. All right, Carrie, number 4.
Well, it's from 1999. Dathan's here with us today. Dathan's fastest Foot Locker race. He ran it in 14:29. The first 3 from this race were the fastest ever in Foot Locker history. Don Sage ran 14:33 in second. He'd go on to run 4 flat in the track season later that year. Ian Dobson was 3rd, went on to be an Olympian. He ran 14:34 this day. But we had Olympians Brits, Dobson, and Matt Tegenkamp, along with Alan Webb, who's here today, in this race. So 4 Olympians right here from this race in 1999. Dathan came from behind, broke away the last half mile,
cross-country championships with about 800
and won in 14:29. Dathan, what are you thinking about right now when you're looking back at this race?
That race was something else. Such a deep field, people there all the way to the end, and I just remember it being an incredibly hard kick over the last 600 meters or so, and that straightaway just seemed like it lasted forever.
You know, when you're so young running for these big races, how do you think you kept your composure?
Doesn't look like I did. I guess, you know, like, you don't know any different. You just do the best you can. You get out there, and sometimes that's part of the learning process is you don't know what you're getting into. This is the first time you've raced against these really great runners again, and you just rely on the training and you learn a lot. And I think I took that to the next year. You know, it was something that I believed in myself, and You build confidence, you build strength year after year, and you learn to, people don't walk out the door and become champions. It happens over, seasons and years of training, and races like that they're just stepping stones along the way. They were stepping stones to being an Olympian and to breaking American records or US championships. Those were the first moments, and they feel like the biggest thing in the world at the time. But, I wasn't composed, honestly. I was so nervous, and I got better over time, but it was a learning experience. And so I was just fortunate to have a great group of guys behind me to push me. And a lot of those guys went on to be great.
Pretty impressive, 4 Olympians out of the first 8 finishers in that race. We've been having a good time, and the clock has moved pretty quickly on us. We're going to get to the girls here in a few minutes, and I know some of our guys here have got to go and do some workouts and some other things. So if you have to leave us, please feel free to just give us a wave, and we really appreciate it. So I just don't want you to feel like you have to sit here with us the whole time, because I know some of you have to get going. But let's quickly go on to number 3 here. So you got to go with the fastest race of all time as legendary. And as Kerry mentioned, we had Ruben Reyna with us on that first week. And that's the mark in San Diego, 14:36. That was incredible. In fact, Marc Masselier finished second in that race at 14:41. And that's not only the fastest ever non-winning time, but it's the 4th fastest time ever. So sometimes those races go so fast, 15 minutes seems to be the goal. And all of a sudden in that race, we had 9 boys go under 15 minutes. So it was pretty impressive. Most years we get 1 or 2. And Ruben just looks so good at this point.
And the large hill at 2.5 miles has left it too late. And Ruben Reyna will win this, the 7th Kinney Cross Country National Championship. And he is well under the course record. He's going to win it easily from Marc Masselier. Trimatics has faded. And Marc Masselier.
Hey, Kerry, we had Chris Zielinski on. He was claiming that, he should have broke that record, missed it by 2 seconds. We'll have to remind him that Ruben just cruised the last 100 meters there. So he could have run 34 or something. Who knows, huh? All right, let's go to number 2, Kerry.
All right, well, we have 3 of these guys, our top 3 here from the 1986 race. We had 4 future Olympians in this race, but to take the whole thing was Marc Davis. He won in 14:38, 2 seconds off Reyna's course record. And then Todd Williams was second in 14:49. And Bobby Kennedy placing 3rd, who ended up going back the next year in 1987, as we said, and took the whole thing. But I got to ask you guys, Mark, do you still have bragging rights all these years later over those 2?
A steep hill that could change the outcome. No, definitely not. I mean, I think I beat them that day, and I think the only of the 2 of them that I beat later on was in a road mile in Hawaii about 15 years later, and I think that was everybody was taking it as a vacation, and I took it way too seriously. Other than that, I didn't beat Bob for the rest of my career. I will have to say to Bob, I actually watched that race live, that when he broke 13 minutes in the 5K. I cried that night as well, because I wished that I was the person that did that. I wanted to accomplish something like that Bob did. And I think that was just an amazing day for American distance running when Bob broke 13 minutes that day in Stockholm. And I really did go back to what I was saying before. I wish that I was that dedicated and motivated, as Bob clearly showed throughout his career and at that pinnacle moment in Stockholm years later. But it was just an honor to run with those guys and be a part of that history. And again, just to carry the theme about the lifelong friendships that we got from that day on, and all the teams we made and places we traveled. It was a great experience.
I still have nightmares of those white shorts.
And
I wake up in a sweat. Mullet. Yeah, I wake up in a sweat 33 years later, and I'm like, there's those white shorts. I can't catch them. And it kept getting further and further away. But no, it was a great time. I mean, just, Bob, myself, Mark, it was, I look back at those clips. It's like, wow, 33 years ago. But yeah, I mean, that was a motivating day for me, because I mean, I really thought I could win, and Mark took off from the gun, and he got to run on his home course
Yeah.
I wish I could have ran on my home course. Yeah, but yeah, it was a great day. That was a really good day.
Todd, it's so funny because my question in my notes was, does this race still keep you up at night? Because I know you so well and I know that it does.
Yeah, it was, you know, it's one of those things when I went out there, it was, you know, I told Coach Bork, I'm like, man, I think I'm going to just go from the gun, right? I'm going to just hammer from the gun. And the gun goes off, and that was Marc's plan because, I mean, he was out in front. And like I said, I can just remember those tight white shorts. I think Marc had like an extra small on or something. But I couldn't get any closer. And,
oh, man.
and, you know, and I also think about that day. I do think about our uniforms. You know, Midwest was black, the West was white. You know, I believe the Northeast was blue and the South was red. And we wanted to be the team champs. That was another thing too that we haven't talked about. It's like how super competitive. I remember Bob and I were like, I think the Midwest has a chance. And I just did the scores again, and it looks like the West got us 40-36.
Yep.
So it was a competitive day, but it was also, again, going back to this whole discussion, it's lifelong friendships, lifelong memories, and I'm just glad I had the opportunity to run at Foot Locker because, you know, it's top of the list. It's great.
Outstanding. You know, that Carrie's been defending the Midwest, everything we've done for the last 3 weeks. Her Midwest bias has been showing through. So thanks for a little love for the West there on that stuff there. So, you know, that was an important race. We talked about this, and I'm sure a lot of the kids don't realize with the success that Americans are having on the world stage now. In the late 90s, it didn't look like that. It didn't look like we could compete. And there were people that said we would never be able to compete at that level, that we were never going to be able to be there again in the Olympic Games. And that all started to change. And you're right, when Bob broke 13, I think a lot of people started to say, you know, if he can do it, then I can do it. Dathan runs 12:56. And I think that's why a lot of people point to that 2000 race. And obviously that's our #1 most legendary race, because what it really did is it set the tone. And so many of the people in that race went on to be Olympians and champions and set records one right after another. So the 2000 race is our #1 race, and we're gonna watch that video. It's gonna run for a little while. So Dathan, you know, obviously is the winner at 14:35, but in that race ran 9:18 for the last 2 miles of that race. So it really pushed it. And then, as we mentioned, went on to run 12:56. Then Alan was second. You know, went on to run 3:53 that year. Ryan was third. Went on to set the American record at the half marathon, all that. And so, guys, as we watch this race, your memories as we go through, and let's kind of start with this. Were you all aware of the significance of that race, or were you just looking to get to another race? Dathan, what did you remember coming in? You were the defending champ.
Yeah, I had really upped my training an amazing amount. I mean, I was running 100 miles a week, and you know, I felt bulletproof. I felt invincible all year long, and I kind of felt like I was going to come out and make this big statement. But honestly, over the course of the last week or so, like my confidence started to erode a little bit, and Alan ran really well at his regional, and I guess, you know, I had to rely on the training and just trust myself, and I trusted my coach. He gave me a completely different race plan than we had originally figured, and I sat back early on. It was the first race in a year that I hadn't just gone to the front and pushed, and honestly, I think there was a lot of built up energy for me. And when, you know, I hit the mile mark, we decided to go, and it was just complete focus, see what you can do, how far can you empty the tank. And I guess I just you know, like there was that gun is like the release of the emotions of the nervousness that you're holding on to. Everybody has that fear, you know, like even the best in the world have doubts, and I did for sure that day. So it was something else to be able to get out there and finally have the gun go off and be like, all right, it's time to stick to the race plan and let's go.
Maybe Ryan Hall to take that lead. Here's a look.
Ryan, just talking about you right there, going into that race. Now you came from some hilly regional course, or very hilly regional course. This was flat. Were you prepared to go out that hard, or did you want to stay in the group? What was your plan?
Yeah, no, Everyone was expecting Dathan to go out. I didn't know the backstory behind his coach throwing that curveball at us, but that totally worked. Everyone was like, man, he goes out every single race. He's going to set a hard pace. So we're all watching Dathan. We're like, he's just going to get after it. And so, you can see me kind of sitting, you can't even see me there, but I'm back in the pack and just keeping an eye on Dathan. But I was sitting too far back. And my confidence was also kind of a little bit rocky going into that one. I hadn't lost a race on a Mount Sac course in Southern California my entire career, and I lost that regional race, and that kind of got in my head a little bit, and I was a little bit shaky going into this one as well. And then you're facing Dathan and Alan, and I knew I had a supreme challenge on my hands, and just wasn't good positioning on my part in this race, and Dathan just blew the doors off those last 2 miles.
Alan, were you ready for that move at the mile when he made it?
No, not at the mile. No, I was not ready for the move that early. I will say that during the first mile, I remember thinking to myself, wow, if they really wait this long, then if they keep waiting at this pace, then my confidence was good at that point. But I would like to know Dathan's middle mile. I mean, you quoted his last 2 miles, but it really ended after about 1,000 meters from the mile through, because I tried to go with him, and you can kind of see me try to go, but I was pretty much gassed at probably about 1,000. I mean, you could actually even look at my turnover was probably higher than Dathan's, because I was pretty much running my mile in the middle of that race, and then the race was over already before we even got to 2 miles. I was destroyed. I luckily enough, I latched on and got enough of a lead over Ryan to basically hold on for dear life through the last mile, because I remember coming around that final straightaway and you can see Ryan starting to catch me, and I was hanging on by a thread at that point because of that move from a mile that Dathan put in. Man, Dathan, that was well played, man.
I think that's interesting though, Alan and Ryan, when you have Dathan out there in front, who you knew obviously was good. But for some of these athletes that are coming to Foot Locker and they are the best in their state, or they're the best in their county, or they're the best on their team, and they have people that are pushing the race in spots where they normally go. I just think it's so important for us athletes to be able to relay that back to these athletes. How do you stay in the game when someone isn't playing the game that you're used to?
I think a lot. Oh, go ahead, Dathan.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, I think a lot for me is how you look at your competitors, right? So if you look at them as like people that you're just trying to beat, then when they're doing stuff that's not what you planned on, it really gets in your head, right? And it rattles you. It can start you on a downward path mentally, and then things don't go well. Whereas like if you're able to look at your competitors as people who are actually trying to pull you along, trying to make you run faster, and your goal is to let them pull you along, but also to make them run faster, then I think they can do whatever they want, and you can just look at them up in front of you and just be like, it's all right, they're just pulling me along, and this is going to make me better, and my goal is to make them better. It totally changes what's going on inside of you, and you go from like getting negative and down to being able to reframe it in a positive light. And I think that's a big part of being successful in racing, is just, can you be out there, can you roll with the punches and reframe negative things, or things that look negative, in a positive light.
Dathan, do you know what that middle mile was? Do you remember?
I was looking for a clock. I guess it said 4:40 when we went by 1 mile, but I don't remember, all I remember is, I just thought, let's just see what I have right now. Like everything I got right now, and I can survive the last mile. And it was, we practiced it. We blew the whistle. The coach would blow the whistle, and I would just run as hard as I could until he blew the whistle again, and I wouldn't know when it would be. And that was what we practiced. And I just lean into any hill, lean into any turn. Just keep going. Don't ever stop. And it got slower. Honestly, my last mile was definitely way slower because I was completely gassed out. But I came into the home stretch there, and I really had nothing left anymore. I was actually kind of going backwards myself, but I just thought, what can I do this middle mile? Can anybody else go with this? We'll just see what's in the tank. And so I just pressed, and I think it was probably pretty ugly the last 100 meters actually.
Somebody just texted me that middle mile was 4:33.
Yeah, and it was a very, very twisty, windy, bumpy thing, and it just just lean into every turn, and it was pretty much everything I could muster.
Wow. Hey, Alan, you deserve a lot of credit. You really gave it an effort though to go with him there. It cost you. You can tell how tired you look here in this last mile, but that's pretty impressive that you went with him there in that mile when he made that break.
The big three.
I was trying. I was trying.
I know we're probably running out of time. I'll just jump in. I haven't watched this race in forever, and I just love watching it. For young athletes, tactics and execution and adaptability, like Ryan was talking about, that's everything. Right? Coach Bell at Indiana used to say to us all the time, you cannot expect to do something in a race that you don't do in training. And when Dathan talked about they practiced changing pace and going until the next whistle, that's not an accident, right? And so I think as you prepare and train, you can't do it blindly. And this is just the result of that preparation. And to me, that makes this race even more exciting when I hear those things.
It's just as great as the first time. I mean, I never felt anything like this at Foot Locker, and Adidas put on such a big meet. It feels like the Olympics or something. And to win it with these great guys in the comeback of distance running, and I think that it just feels awesome.
Whatever you're doing in training should be preparation for racing. That's what we're doing. Yes, we're all trying to be healthy and we want to be fit, and maybe that's something that we take on for the rest of our lives to be fit. But yes, you're practicing for the race. And so whatever you should be doing in training, you should be expected to do in the race and nothing more. So you really do need to make sure that you're focusing that every single day, focusing in on that training. That's what's going to give you the confidence for the race.
By the way, you guys are both wearing sweet spikes in that race too.
We'd be remiss to not mention the girls' champion in that race that year. Ryan, who was that woman that was holding that trophy there a second ago? Oh, Ryan, you're still muted there. Yeah, let's get Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Sarah Bay. Luckily, she's a forgiving person because I wasn't in the best mood after that race.
Here you go. It was interesting what you said about enjoying the moment. I think one of the things that we all remember about Sarah so much is her junior when she didn't qualify, how gracious she was at the regional. She didn't go out and sob, didn't sulk, came back, took pictures with everybody, and then came back and won the national championship. I think a lot of us were just delighted that she was able to do that. And it was a class move, to say the least.
Yeah, that was actually the first thing I heard about Sarah. That was like my introduction to Sarah Bay was my dad reading the article about how she didn't pout after she didn't qualify for Foot Locker Nationals during her junior year. And he's like, hey, like he was pointed out to me as like, you need to be like this. You need to take a lesson from this. Because he knows like I tended to be a poor sport when I lose. And so Sarah's been inspiring me since day one. And yeah, she's one of a kind for sure.
Mickey, you see dads know what's best there. All right. Well, hey, we want to thank you all so much. This has been so much fun. It's great to see you all smiling when you're talking about this. So it has been a wonderful memory for you. We do want to, we're not leaving. We just want to kind of switch gears for a minute. We didn't have a race this year. We are back, loud and proud in 2021. We already have the date. It will be on December 11th. We have a great group of boys and girls coming back next year. We're going to talk to some of those girls in just a moment. We have Abby Vanderkooi and Taylor Ewert and Jenna Hutchins that are going to join us. So please stay with us. But we just want to thank all of you guys. It has been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure to watch your careers. every time you break another American record or win an Olympic medal or make a world championship team, we all kind of smile and go, that's one of ours. That's pretty good. So thank you so much. We'd like to invite you, if you'd like to stay with us and go, or stay with us and watch the girls. If not, we understand that you have things to do on a Saturday morning, but thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See ya.
Thank you, guys. See ya.
All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit because it's been an exciting year, even though we didn't have any racing going on at Foot Locker. We had some racing going on and some people running some very fast times. And as we mentioned a few minutes ago, we are all set for 2021. Foot Locker will be the 42nd Foot Locker National Championship. We'll be back in beautiful San Diego. If you didn't see that photo or that live shot from the beach there, next year we're all going to be back there. We'll have our regionals, the 3 regionals, the Northeast, the South, and Midwest will be on Thanksgiving weekend once again. And then the West region will be the first week in December. And we will be back in San Diego. We have some ladies with us that have run that race just this last year and having some great years going on. Carrie, let me turn it over to you if I can.
Well, okay. Hey, ladies, how you doing? We're super excited to have.
Hello.
Hi. Our top 2 returners are here. So Abby, can you wave? Abby's here, and she was our 2019 Foot Locker 3rd place finisher in 16:55. You guys, she ran the 2nd fastest time ever as a sophomore behind Julia Stamps, who we had just a couple weeks ago. She's the fastest ever 3rd placer, and only Starlipper's 16:46 is the fastest non-winning time. So Abby, we are so thankful to have you here, and we are excited to hear from you. How are you doing right now? If you can unmute yourself, we want to just hear how you're doing and how you're feeling about your race next year, hopefully at the Foot Locker Championships.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm super pumped for next year. It was really disappointing to not have Foot Locker this year, just because I really enjoyed
from Muskegon, Western Michigan Christian High School in Michigan. She's a returning Foot Locker.
Well, Abby, you broke up a little bit, but we're watching you here. Do you remember when we announce your names? Well, actually, Tim does it, but he reads off all your accolades and you're running down, slapping hands with world champions and Olympians and getting to that start line. What does that feel like?
It's terrifying. Seeing it now, like my heart just kind of races. It's crazy. That fact that I can have that wonderful opportunity was like, I'm so thankful for that, and I forever will be. And I really just hope I get to go back there next year. Last year I was really nervous that I wouldn't even make it there just because of my iron previously had really knocked me down. To the fact that I not only made it there but took first at Foot Locker Midwest was really such a huge blessing.
Well, you've had a nice cross country season this year already. So talk about your fitness right now.
Yeah, I was really happy. I PR'd this year at Allendale, which was nice, which was exciting, especially because that's a very, very curvy and just kind of like wet and heavy and grassy course. And yeah, and overall it's been going pretty good, but the whole season I have been struggling with injuries in like my left glute and hamstring area. So that's been hard. So I'd say like the whole season really I've been running more on pain, and like over summer I had to take off ever since after I ran in Arizona. After I raced the track meet there, I had to take off for a little bit. So that was hard.
Yeah, it is hard. Lots of those injuries, lots of iron issues, that's part of the game. But we're going to go on to Taylor. We're going to come back to you when we watch our video. But Taylor Ewert's here. Hi, Taylor.
Hi.
So,
Hi,
Taylor,
how are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to see you. You were 4th in the 2018 Foot Locker Championships. You were 6th last year. You hold 7 American records for under 20 in the race walk. You're just a phenomenal race walker and runner. You're at the University of Arkansas right now, and you're voted the SEC Freshman of the Year. So you're having a great year.
Yeah, it was a great year. I loved being able to just get something new. I really enjoyed my time in high school, and I really enjoyed being able to compete with Foot Locker and just my time there in general. And right now I'm just really happy with how my freshman year at college ended, and I've loved being able to watch all the underclassmen competing this past year. I know it's been tough for them since they haven't had like the most ideal season with COVID, but like, you know, you got to make the most of what you have.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to move on to Jenna because we want to watch your guys' race. But Jenna, congratulations. 15:34 yesterday, new national record. We're going to hear all about it, but you must be flying high this morning.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. I was just so grateful to have the opportunity to get to just, you know, have some races to compete at this season. Luckily, Tennessee's had a pretty normal season. We had our state meet, regionals, all that normal stuff. So I've just been really appreciative of that, and I'm super excited and really looking forward to Foot Locker next year.
Yeah, well, you were 5th last year, 9th in 2018. So next year will be your 3rd time coming back. And I think we have a little bit of your guys' race from last year that we can see right now.
Girls, go ahead and unmute yourself, and any comments you want to make as you watch the race, we'll certainly enjoy that as we go through. So Caitlin takes it out hard all the time, doesn't she?
Yes, that's definitely her racing style.
I honestly kind of like it though. I'm very much of a go out fast and hard too, and it's kind of nice.
You know, when we all get to Foot Locker as athletes, we all get to meet up at the hotel and we meet all these world champions, Olympians, and we go for a run with them. And then the day before we go and walk through the course and we see this famous course that everyone's talked about. You girls, when you got to put on your uniform race morning and line up on that start line and you became part of the Foot Locker family, what did it mean to you?
Just the Foot Locker experience to me is just unlike anything else, and it means more to me than any of the other meets I've ever competed in. Everyone just treats you like family there, and getting to meet with just all the professional athletes is just incredible, and it's just such a great learning opportunity and experience. And then too, getting to meet all of the other athletes there that we don't get to see during most of the normal part of the regular season is just, it's so special. It's my favorite meet of the year.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Jenna. It's just like, to me, because like, so honestly, like me, I never ever have anyone to train against, to compete against really. I mean, like just in Texas, that was the only race I've had competition the whole year. So like to go and race against other people is such a treat. And then like all these other runners who like, you look up and like, I mean, like, I have a ton of respect for all my fellow like runners and stuff, and like all of them, it's like, yeah, like I know they're wonderful runners, and it's so fun to be able to go and race against them and really like to just like to meet them, be like, yeah, like they're people like you, and it's just fun to know them and to talk to them. And I mean, like even like Riley Stewart, I made a pretty good friendship with her, and like now we still text and stuff, and it's just, yeah, I think Foot Locker is my favorite weekend of the whole year.
Taylor, being the oldest of these 3 and now in college, how did that experience help you to become the SEC Freshman of the Year?
Well, I mean, Foot Locker is a course like no other. It's definitely one that it is tough, and, you know, it's amazing being able to compete against the best and the best. And when it comes to college racing, there were times where I was in college races where, you know, I was able to remind myself that, you know, I've competed in bigger meets. I've competed against girls like this lineup in Foot Locker that are super talented. And, you know, being able to compete at such high level meets in high school that like Foot Locker offers is so helpful going into college, because it kind of gives you that experience of being able to handle, you know, bigger meets and race against competition.
Yeah, only 39 other girls out there along with you, Taylor. I mean, that's pretty special. And, you know, it can be frightening. We've talked about this in previous webinars, but when you're so good at what you've done, but you know everyone else on that line is so good, it really is a great practice for going forward.
It really is. And it's something to really enjoy. Like, there's nothing else like Foot Locker out there. And just for the high schoolers, just enjoy that experience and take advantage of Foot Locker, because, you know, in college, like you said, the races are going to be a lot bigger. Like 39 other girls out there is kind of something you don't really see a lot unless it's some type of final. And so you just have to go out there and really enjoy it and take advantage of it.
Yeah, but on the flip side, Jenna, like your race yesterday, you had a couple people around you. You had the light to chase after, but you were pretty much on your own that final mile to really push hard and to keep the clock in mind and also to see how tough you really could be. So, how was your race yesterday and how are your legs feeling today after running 15:34?
Yeah, I feel pretty good today. The race last night was it was a lot of fun. We had a pacer for the first little bit of the race, and just having someone to look off of makes it just the effort feel so much less, and it really gave me something just to kind of dial in and focus on. So the first mile felt pretty relaxed, but after she dropped off and for the last 2/3 of the race, being on your own, it's just kind of a whole different experience. Trying to push yourself, not really have anything to exactly look at, can be a little tough. We did have the lights, like you mentioned, going around the outside of the track. So once I saw those come up beside of me, it was a great additional motivation to help keep me going and be able to look at those. But it is a little bit different than having an actual person right there beside of you. That last lap, luckily there was, Annie, who came in second in the race, was chasing me down pretty hard. So that was a nice push on the final lap. But just being on your own out there is a little bit different. But like I said earlier, I was just really grateful to have the opportunity to race, and it was a lot of fun.
Hey, Jenna, I was watching that race. I was wondering, when did you pass the light? And were you, I'm ahead of that now. I think it was 15:37 they were set at, right? When did you pass the light?
So
when did you finally catch it? Yeah.
It was actually kind of scary because I was ahead of it for a while. Then, like in the middle of the second mile, it started to pass me. So I was like, oh no, I can't let it pass me. So I just tried to stay even with it the best I could. It started to get a little bit ahead. So I had to be careful there. But that last lap, I was about even with it. So I knew I was right on pace. So I really had to pick it up there. So it probably wasn't until maybe less than 200 meters to go, I finally was able to pull ahead of it by a small margin.
That's so unusual to race the light there. Hey, you just said you were really relaxed the first about 4:56. Have you been training at that pace or faster than that to be able to run you were relaxed at 4:56. You look like you were cruising.
Yeah, I think some in-practice experience along with just being a lot stronger from just the overall cross-country season was really helpful. But I've been able to get in some good quality workouts. I like to do a lot of 1,000 and mile repeat type work. And I've been training mostly on the grass this season. So these last couple weeks, getting some basic track work in was a good help.
Well, we're watching the race here too. And Abby, you're in there right in third. Zofia Dudek, who's been on fire again this year, pushes to first. Abby, thoughts right now at this point of the race last year?
I was in a lot of pain going up that hill. Tell you that, it was hard. But I remember just thinking, I don't even just stay here. Just stay here, because I was gonna give it my all just to take the lead, but I kind of could tell that Zofia had it, and that Marley was coming up. That Marley was pretty strong. I guess then I was like, yeah, I just want to keep holding there, and I'm really bad at descending hills, and I had been working on that, so I was thinking I need to make sure to come down the hill hard, and then actually after I got down the bottom of the hill, I thought for sure Taylor was right on my butt. So I was going as hard as I could because I was very worried.
Yeah. Matt O'Brien has been writing in some awesome questions. I don't know if you guys can see the Q&A, but he's wondering about what it's like in normal races, you're by yourself, but then when you have these races where people are around you, what is that like? And Taylor, you were behind coming up here, closing the gap. So, walk us through that, what it's like to have all those people around you, but then to be closing the gap, which is something we don't have to do very often.
Yeah, it's definitely a change when you go from running a lot of races by yourself. It's definitely a different mentality. And, I was lucky enough that the Foot Locker Midwest Regional, we have, pretty good competition with Sophia and Abby and Caitlin Hart. So I was able to kind of get a good test run in my legs. and make sure that I was feeling good going into Foot Locker Nationals. And it's definitely tough. It's my last race of the season, and I come off a pretty big race the week prior. But, you know, I always try to go into a race with positive attitude, and, you know, wherever you are in a race, just try to make the most of where I'm at and just kind of keep fighting to the end. And you'll get to see up here, Jenna got me right at the end, but it still was a great race, and I wouldn't have been, I'm just happy with the way my senior year ended for cross country season all the way. Yep. Good. Honestly, it's such good memories, and like good for Jenna for bringing it all the way in, because there's times in races where that could be the difference between you and a medal. And even if it's someone you know, you have to fight for it.
Well, thank you. Well, that last little bit, I remember it was such you were such a big push for me. So just coming down that final hill, you know, I was tracking behind you. I could barely see you in the distance. I was like, come on, I gotta hurry. But it was really great having you there, and just, you know, like we've all been saying, having, you know, just that competition around you as opposed to running alone is just such a different experience, and it really pushes you so much harder than you can just give like on a normal day.
I love that. You know, listening beforehand to all the guys talk about how, you know, we've followed each other's careers, we've become friends for a lifetime. We're excited for each other all the time. I know you girls are the same. Taylor, because you are now done with Foot Locker, and hopefully you'll come back as a captain or a coach one year, but can you talk about your goals in college here, but also for 2021, because you have, you know, you've made it known that you want to make that Olympic team, whether it's a race walk or on the track.
Yes, 2021 is definitely a big year. Obviously, the Olympics got postponed. So right now, Coach Harder and I are just, you know, just trying to be fluid with everything that's going on. And, you know, we're focusing on that goal of making it to the 2021 Olympics, of course, in the 20K race walk. And then also just to have a really good, you know, freshman year season with indoor and outdoor track. Obviously, you know, I'm under great coaching with him, and I'm just hoping that I can, you know, better some of my personal bests and just, you know, just finish off my freshman year strong. You know, freshman year can be a really tough transition, especially with just college and just a new environment. And right now I'm really happy with it, and I'm just hoping I can carry that into the new year.
We're rooting for you. Good luck.
All right, Taylor.
Thank you.
You've got the experience now. You're in college, and it looks like you and Coach Harder is a good match, and Arkansas seems to be a good place for you. So I imagine that Abby and Jenna have got a few phone calls coming their way. Jenna, I imagine last night every college coach in America is on the phone. Anyway, so what would you what advice for Jenna and Abby about choosing college now? What did you do well? What would you have done a little bit different? And why did we settle on Arkansas?
Well, you know, the college decision can definitely be tough. And I think it's really important to do your research, look into each program, reach out to the girls, try to find out, you know, what they like, what they don't like, because, you know, college is a time that it's a really big stepping stone in your career. And if you are serious about your running and you want to take it to the next level, you know, that's the time when, you know, you can go forward with that. And so I just hope that you guys just do the research, talk to the coaches, have a list of questions. Every time I talk to a coach, I made sure I had questions. And from there, I think the best way is to just start, you know, narrowing it down. And then for me personally, it came down to, I think, 3 schools.
It's the only way we could slow Taylor down.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, excellent. And here's a question. That one we're going to send out to Luciana Rodriguez, because that was kind of her question about running in college. But, you know, this is such a unique opportunity. 3 of you who have reached the highest levels of high school success for distance running. It's phenomenal how much you've all achieved. You've had to deal with some setbacks. Abby, you talked about being injured a bit here. So during this time, what's your advice when that happens? You guys all train on the edge. You can't run as fast as you've run without training on the edge. So you've all dealt with this. So Abby, you had to deal with that. Was it mentally difficult for you?
Yeah, it's definitely not fun. I do have to say that. I honestly, I prayed about it a lot, and I just I try to focus on even that, like, God has a plan and he has a reason for this, and he's only making me stronger. And I also took it as an opportunity to cross train a lot more. Like, I did a lot of swimming, especially like because I live about 12 minutes from Fremont Lake, and so I would just go 20 minutes out, 20 minutes in. And I did more ellipticaling, more strength training, and that was, I think that's a good way to go. And it made me realize that, like, I like to swim too. Like, hey, if someday I need to stop running, maybe I'll go swim, and like maybe I need a triathlon too or something. And I guess take your opportunities, and but also try to look at the big picture.
Jenna,
I agree a lot with what Abby said, and I also just think for me personally, I think having like a positive attitude has always been really important. I think before, maybe in the past when I've been a little bit younger, I've kind of let just maybe the small things get in the way, or maybe make me, I guess, not as positive as I could have been. So I think this year, especially, you know, when things haven't been going as planned with COVID, becoming a lot more flexible as an athlete, and then just overall as a person, and then, you know, just trying to keep that positive mental attitude really does have a big impact, and that's really helped me a lot.
We're going to send out a gift card to Mariah Judy. That was kind of her question. You want to deal with setbacks. Here's another one. Gilbert Olivas. Taylor, has race walking helped you in cross country running, do you think?
I definitely think it's had a positive impact on my cross country running. When I'm race walking, it's a lot of just endurance training. And I think when I'm race walking, it's building a big base for me aerobically. And so also, I think it also kind of helps with my form, just because it kind of shortens up my stride a little bit. It helps me work on my arms. So when I'm going back into, you know, my running, it allows me to just have a little bit more of mental strength, have that aerobic base, and, you know, little tweaks in my form seem to be improved. So there's definitely positives on both ways. You know, my running helps my race walking, and my race walking does help my running.
Outstanding. You know, you become, as we mentioned, part of the family. I don't know if you noticed at the time, I'm sure you did when you crossed that finish line. You know, Emma Coburn, how many times you cross the finish line, the world champion comes up and puts her arm around you. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So welcome to the family. So we're going to watch you. It'll be fun to watch you in the SEC and the Olympic trials, and hopefully the Olympic Games. My gosh, what a thrill that would be. You'll become one of the 90 plus Foot Locker athletes who have made the Olympic team. Before we leave, though, I'd just like to get a little bit. So in 2021, let's start with Abby. Abby, give us, you know, the boys talked about, the men talked about such a importance of goals. What are your goals for 2021 for you?
Well, are you like including track in there too?
You got it. We're all part of the same sport. Yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say, well, because I ran a 10:02 in track just past June in Arizona, and it was really, like, actually it almost was kind of frustrating to me, because I, for the first lap, stayed behind like, I think it was Lauren Ping and stuff, and our third lap was like an 82 or something. I remember just being really annoyed. So like my first mile was like a 5:11, my second was like a 4:50. So my goal is to definitely break the 10:02 in there. I want and then I would like to break my mile time again too. And I for sure want to go back to Foot Locker. That's definitely on the list. And I would like to PR. I want to finish my season strong. I hope my injury heals up 100% so that doesn't annoy me anymore. And I'm pretty sure it will. And,
it will.
Yeah.
Jenna, how about you? Before we mentioned when the men were on, you know, the American record for under junior, you know, that was Molly Huddle, right? And Molly's a Foot Locker alum also. It's been a pretty good week for Foot Locker alum. Sophia was great at the AAU meet. And then Emily Sisson almost broke the American record in the half marathon, missed it by a second. That was one of Molly. So Molly's one for one, or 1-1 the last couple of weeks with records. But Jenna, what are your goals here for 2021?
Yeah, I think my goals overall, I just want to continue to improve and have fun and enjoy the sport. for my senior year. For cross country, my goal ever since freshman year was to make it to Foot Locker. So that's always my number one priority, just getting back there and getting to enjoy that experience. But then as far as on the track, I don't really have anything in particular right now. I think just to continue to improve and keep training and working hard and enjoying the process and just trying my best.
All right, Taylor, let's end with you. We're not going to send him a gift card, but Tracy Sunland is a friend of all of ours, is sending a question here. But race walking is certainly important in 2021 to you. And so how you fit that with your college plans as far as how you'll relate to the team and track and go to the trials? Well, what's the plan for that?
Well, I was really lucky that with the recruiting process, Harder was super open with my race walking. And so that's something that he's really excited to work with me. And with track, we're right now in the position that I probably won't be able to do any indoor race walking races just because of the current pandemic going on, obviously. But we're hoping to do a couple 20Ks out in the spring. And you know, Coach Harder is really good with working with timelines and training. And luckily, the majority of my training is just all running and just getting some little bit of race walking in here and there to help taper me and get me ready for my race walk races. And then luckily, with the positioning of NCAAs, I'll be able to focus on the NCAAs outdoors and obviously indoors while getting ready for the Olympic trials without too much overlapping. But it's a big plan, and I know that Harder is already on it, and lots of thinking going into it, but you know, it's all under control, and I'm just really excited to be running with Arkansas going into this year.
I love that. Big plans. All right. So we're going to be watching our alum. You're part of our family with Abby and Jenna and Carrie and the rest of them. So we'll be watching you and Jenna and Abby. We're so excited. We're going to be seeing you on the beach next year in San Diego. So here from yesterday, December 11th, 2021, the Foot Locker will be the 42nd year. And Abby and Jenna will be with us. Taylor will be with us in a couple of years as coach of the Midwest team, because as Carrie says, the Midwest wins everything. So we don't want to go down
Yes, go Midwest.
Anymore. There you go. Carrie, we'll leave you with the last word there.
Oh, I'm just so excited for you girls. Thank you for being such a great representation of Foot Locker and of the US. You guys are in for the ride of your lives when you get to run and use your passion and your talents and your gifts. It's amazing. And as you get older, like I am, and you know, if you have children or you're working and you are an entrepreneur and you use all these talents and these things you've learned from our sport, life just keeps getting better. So you have so much to look forward to, and just keep having fun, because you do get slower, just letting you know. So be as fast as you can while you can. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you for allowing us to come. I really enjoyed the opportunity to speak with you all, and I'm super excited for next year. And also it's nice to see you, Abby and Taylor.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Taylor, Jenna, Abby, along with Emma Coburn, Jenny Simpson, Dina Castor. Boy, isn't it great to be in that group, ladies? Thank you so much for joining us. I want to thank everybody that's been with us for the 3 weeks. You can go on to Foot Locker CC for the next several months, and you can see clips from all of these and the great inspiration from people like Emma and Jenny and Dina and Abby and Jenna and Taylor, and enjoy that. And once again, this will be our final note, because we do want to make sure we let you know we're coming back big and strong. So next year, December 11th, log in and watch the Foot Locker National Championships. And we'll say goodbye to everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.